Hey guys, welcome to the Boardroom. Pretty excited today. It's going to be a fantastic episode. We got Manuj Aggarwal. I'll introduce him in a sec. Before I do that, I'm Rob Tatro, Senior Portfolio Manager, Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management, and the Tatro Wealth Advisor Group. Brings me great joy to be here. We got another fantastic episode. If you like what you see and you'd like to book a no obligation consultation with us to chat about this or anything else that's on your mind, please go to www.speaktorob.com. We'll book a time for you. Manuj, great to have you here.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here with you.
Yes, it's great. Manuj, you're a business mentor, you're an entrepreneur, digital business strategist, you're an author, you're an innovator, you're an inventor, but you are truly the founder, CEO of Tetranoodles Technologies. You delivered more than 500 million in value, 50 startups in enterprise value. You scaled systems globally to millions of users. You've written 2 books. You've authored 75 plus courses. 180,000 students. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. We're going to start right away on the future of AI and machine learning. You are a guy that's pretty much focused your life on, you've dedicated a lot of time to this, and we'll get into kind of your background in a sec. But first of all, tell me what you think the future looks like for AI with respect. First of all, let's talk about AI. We'll get to machine learning first, but the future of AI, maybe you could describe it and define it for our viewers.
AI basically, it is it's finding the right patterns that exist in data in real life behavior of people. So what happens is that intuitively we may or may not recognize a certain pattern in life. A good example could be a child who's touching the stove. Before that experience, they do not know what that experience is going to be like. But as soon as they touch that stove, they know, oh, this is hot, I shouldn't be doing this. Now, that is just one data point, and the intelligence picks it up, and the kid is not going to touch the stove again. But when we look at scenarios like climate or business scenarios or sales forecasts, there are so many parameters that affect the outcome of a certain event that is happening. So our human mind is not capable of looking at even 5 different parameters and of different scales and whatnot, and then look at historical data and understand, okay, this is when this happens, then that happens, and so on and so forth. So what artificial intelligence does is it can digest millions and millions of data points across multiple variables and really understand what really happens in the world. So if the price of wheat goes up, if that affects something else, how does that affect it? What are the nuances that how these different parameters are related, and that is how our mind thinks as well. But artificial intelligence takes it to an exponential next level where it can do millions and millions of these calculations, and obviously it can go far back in history and understand that data.
Data is critical to this, obviously. And if my brother were here, he'd be smiling and laughing because he loves his data. Mm-hmm. He always wants me to back everything I say in life and conversation and discussion with data. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the further point. So you have the data, you have the AI. Now, what about the machine learning? Tell us about that. Tell us what that is and how you think it and maybe give a specific example. Climate. That's a good one.
Yeah. See, machine learning basically is a simplified version of AI. AI is multiple levels of machine learning. So once again, if we just take the example of the kid touching the stove, that is just one data point, and we can just say, okay, one variable, the machine can just understand it. That's called machine learning. But when we start to introduce multiple things, and we can start to talk about a computer vision, which is actually recognizing images, videos, by the computer. So that's where a lot of these layers come on top of each other, and that's basically called artificial intelligence. So it's a more complex form of that. And again, the more experts you will talk to, the more definitions you'll get. But that is my simplified version of AI versus machine learning. Yeah, go ahead.
No, how'd you get into this? So, I read on your website, you started in India, and I guess at some point you decided you were passionate about this. You understood it. You got it better than others. and you dedicated yourself to this, or what's the story?
Well, I won't say I got it better than others, but here is what happens, right? Like in technology moves fast, and I'm a passionate technologist, and I love to learn about new technologies all the time. So when you are immersed in multiple projects with multiple corporations, I guess people who are forward thinking, they always want to use new technologies. So organically, what happens is, blockchain comes into my life, artificial intelligence comes to my life, and if you are inclined to take up these new challenges, you go with it. The reason why artificial intelligence is very, very attractive to me is I'm also a student of meditation, and I know a lot about the mind, how the mind thinks, neuroscience, psychology, and there are a lot of parallels between our human psychology and artificial intelligence. So it once you understand this continuum, it becomes very, very powerful, and you can see the evidence of that by looking at companies like Google and Amazon and Facebook. These companies in last 20 years have made trillions, tens of trillions of dollars, which has never been possible for any corporation, and that is only because they understand the relationship between data and how we behave as humans.
I remember my brother used to say, buy Google stock because they control the data. They have your data. They have everyone's data. And I was like, yeah, but how are they going to make money? This is 10 years ago. He's like, they're going to figure out a way to monetize it. Don't worry about it. They control the data. And he was right. And you're certainly right on this point. Let's move over to our 1 minute quick shots. I want to start on meditation. And you talked about that one. So I did a bit of yoga and I noticed the wonderful benefits of it. Just the breathing. I didn't do the stretching as much, but I did the breathing and the square and the 10 seconds up and down and across and back up and meditation. And then psychedelics. Do you have any of those? Have you had any experience with psychedelics? Is that something that you think is going to be a part of kind of mainstream life in the future?
Absolutely. Altered states of consciousness start with a beer that you've had, and you will see that your behavior changes. You become a little bit more open. You become a little bit more brave, and there are certain aspects of our mind we don't really understand. Neuroscience or psychology as a field itself is barely like 50, 60 years old, and there's so much that we don't know about it. Whereas if you go to traditional cultures, they have been trying to understand different states of consciousness for thousands of years. So forward thinking countries like Canada, they are even in US, they are actually funding some studies on psychedelics. And if you talk about things like ayahuasca, which has been around for centuries, it has profound effects on our mind. It allows us to look at our own subconscious and see, how our decisions are being affected by our past traumas, our past experiences, and it's a really great way to open up your mind and see the reality for what it is.
Okay, great stuff. Let's talk about crypto real quick. What's your view on crypto, and do you own any?
I don't own any. I don't believe in it yet. The reason is because the world runs by people who have the money, who run the money. I don't think unless and until the governments get behind crypto and regulate it, it is going to stay around for long, because I just don't see any value in it.
Okay, big data. What do you see as big data, and how
data,
do you see it how do you see it impacting us in our lives?
Yeah, big data is basically the foundation for AI and machine learning. If we don't have data, there is nothing to learn. So the more devices are connected to the internet, the more internet is becoming ubiquitous. More data is being collected by companies who are going to be providing the services. Data is going to be the new oil. Data is going to be the new gold. So people are moving toward metaverse. Very soon, we will start to see virtual reality and real reality start to merge. And in that environment, data will be everything.
Let's talk about the stock market itself. You're wealthy. You've built up some wealth in your time. Do you invest in the stock market?
Yeah.
And your portfolio, you own stocks? Do you own alternatives? What do you own?
So what I do is, I have been dabbling in many different automated systems, applying algorithms to stock markets. So what I do is I allocate 90% of my savings into index funds, so that I don't have to bother with that. And then 10% is something I use for testing out these algorithms that I play with the market. And I invest in mid cap companies, generally in the US stock exchanges.
Okay. Let's talk about human psychology briefly. What interests you the most about human psychology?
Well, the thing is that everything revolves in this world around human psychology. We tend to think we are very rational beings, but at the end of the day, 90% of our decisions are made through irrational emotional triggers that happen in our mind. So once you really start to understand all that, you remove so many layers, not only in yourself, but also the people you're interacting with. And it gives you an edge in everything, uh, a business, in your personal life, in your romantic life. Everything revolves around psychology. So if psychology communication, if people can devote a little bit of time in that, it will really arm them with really good powers that can be utilized for some really good
I've
stuff.
seen it so many times. You talk about emotional decision making. What I do, obviously, for a living is I help people out there that have not been able or are not able to manage money on their own, and they need support. They need someone to guide them, build a portfolio for them, because they're not able to make those emotional decisions. And I've seen it so many times. Someone comes to me, my portfolio has been blown up. Why? Well, I ended up buying right at the top and I ended up selling right at the bottom because I was euphoric at the top and I was panicking at the bottom. Yet those market emotions. Let's chat briefly here. You are a man who's built an online academy, I'll call it, or an online university, online courses. You have 75 plus courses online. Let me ask you this. I want to pick your brain on this. What are your courses run roughly? The price points.
See, these are very, very technical courses, and generally they are listed on the market anywhere from $200 to $500. But the reality is that because of the way that online education works, especially in these technical areas, they sell for anywhere from $10 to $20 per seat. But the idea is it sells to thousands of people rather than a handful of them.
Okay, and what if someone were to say, why would someone possibly pay for that course when Google is got all the information on the planet? Why would someone possibly pay for a course?
Very good question. See, stock market, I mean, people pay to save their time. Time is the most precious commodity. Now, if I were to learn something on my own, I'll have to do some research. I'll need to aggregate a lot of data from multiple sources. Some sources may be outdated, maybe incorrect. I'll need to figure out, okay, what is the latest information. So if you value your time, you may want to go to a trusted source and say, hey, okay, I don't want to waste my time, of 4 hours looking for this information on Google. I'd rather pay you something because I know you have done all the work and collected all the material. Very, very much like the stock market, right? Like we all have the same information. It's publicly available, but people come to the experts who really know, how to use that information. And yeah. Exactly.
So Manuj, when did you, by the way, guys, I'm here with Manuj Aggarwal, who's a business mentor, entrepreneur, CEO and founder of Tetranoodles Technologies. Manuj, when did you start this company, this venture?
Oh, this was back in 2000, right after .com bust happened. Because my story was like I landed in Canada, got a job very quickly, but then quick succession, lost 3-4 jobs. First because of .com boom, September 11th. A lot of things happened around that area in that time period. So I thought to myself, this job security thing doesn't work. So let me just start my own company, and that's when it started. So we've been sort of under the radar for the last 15 to 18 years, just working with local clients, word of mouth. But around 2019, I said, okay, we gotta go big now. We gotta grow it. So we sort of came out of the hiding.
Decided to be your own boss, right? Control your own income, be your own boss, and a true entrepreneur opinion. So, okay, so you built this business. What are some of the things you've learned in business in building this business, and what are some of the best kind of tips that people have learned from you?
Yeah. See, I used to think talent and having skills is the most important thing in business. If you have a good service, then people come. But that is far from truth. So relationships and getting your name out there, and human sort of focusing on the the human desires of your customers and giving them exactly what they want, whether you agree with that or not, by the way. That is the key. So you really have to check your ego. You really have to be open minded and study the market, whether the market is always right, whether you agree with it or not, right? So if you want to win, you got to be ready to be wrong, and most people want to be right rather than they want to win.
Now you sound like my dad just now. It's one of his favorite lines. The market is always right. I want to get into the rapid fire here, and I want to ask you a bit about who Manuj is personally. So, who's your favorite entrepreneur?
Elon Musk.
Okay. What's your favorite quote?
It is what it is.
That's one of the ones I don't like. It is what it is. I think there's a stand-up comedian who builds an entire bit around "it is what it is." What podcast show would you like to be on aside from this one day?
I will love to be on. That's a difficult one. I think
maybe a TED Talk.
No. There's a top podcast on business. Gary V, perhaps.
Gary V.
Yeah,
Gary V is really good.
Yeah.
What about you personally? What are some of the habits that you do now personally that you think not enough people do that have done wonders for you personally?
So first of all is meditation every day, like at least 20 minutes, and then some yoga, going out there in nature, sleeping at least 7 hours a day, tracking your sleep, because if you don't track, you don't know. So these are some of the things these are simple things, but I highly recommend everybody do that.
I could tell you there were many years where I was not getting 7 hours of sleep. I was trying to build my business. I had a family, but you're 100% right. I think COVID has taught me that we need to take care of ourselves here. We only get one of these lives. Do you have a favorite sport?
Well, I come from India, so cricket has been my favorite sport. It doesn't, here a little bit of that pleasure I can get from baseball. I have tried to understand American football. I couldn't really make sense of it. But yeah, I mean, baseball and hockey is always exciting.
Yes. The batsman or a bowler?
For cricket?
Yeah. Were you a batsman? Or were you a strong batsman?
I was more of a bowler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's next for you?
Well, so we are working on some cool AI-based technologies, understanding human consciousness, and the attempt is to sort of try and see how we can bridge the gap between human consciousness and AI, and find very compelling business solutions, which are already yielding some amazing results. Like, we are able to 10x results for our clients within weeks, and that's because once you really, going back to my previous answer, if you really understand human psychology and then add a little bit of fuel on fire by using automation and technology, you can scale it to thousands or millions of people, and that's what generates very, very fast, very efficient results. And so I'm looking forward to how to make it even more powerful, more seamless moving forward.
So I have a feeling you don't watch TV. Do you watch TV?
Yeah, I watch TV, but not the news, or I watch basically documentaries or some entertainment.
Favorite movie or documentary?
Favorite movie, I love comedy movies. It's Wedding Crashers. If
Wedding Crashers.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson and
that's right.
Vince Vaughn. Yes,
exactly.
They're quite good together. A comedic duo. Okay, so favorite book?
It's by Principles of Work and Play, I believe. It's by Ray Dalio. He's one of the...
Ray Dalio, yeah, he's a beauty. Yeah, he's done a few things well in his life. So, Manuj, I really thank you. We're out of time. We're running out of time. I really want to thank you for this. My big takeaway here is I really like, obviously you've done remarkably well with your courses for entrepreneurs, but the mixing of the human consciousness with AI and machine learning, I think is something that if you can somehow harness that and be successful with that, goodness, that could be a real game changer. You might be your own Elon Musk one day.
Let's see.
I do want to thank you for your time, Manuj Aggarwal. I really thank you, founder, CEO of Tetranoodle Technologies. Thank you for taking the time today. I'm Rob Tatro, Senior Portfolio Manager at Canaccord Genuity Wealth Management and the Tatro Wealth Advisory Group. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to book a no obligation consultation, please go to www.speaktorob.com. We'd love to chat with you about anything that's related to finance, investments, or whatever else is on your mind. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode of The Boardroom.